Hey folks, how's it going? Hope you're having an awesome holiday season and a happy new year. So, I wanted to try something new for the channel. Since the world building reviews take, well, a really long time to make, I figured that every now and then I could sprinkle the channel
and feed the algorithm gods
by making quick little reviews of new movie or show releases. Nothing big, just my quick and general thoughts. And no, while I do tend to focus on sci-fi, fantasy, animation, etc., I won't necessarily confine myself to only those genres and might tackle others such as dramas and such. And in fact, I figured I might as well start by reviewing none other than Steven Spielberg's The Fabelmans. Now, full disclosure, I'm a massive fan of Spielberg. He's my absolute all-time favorite director and frankly my icon. The holy emperor of cinema himself. Whatever your opinions are of him, you can't deny that this dude has almost single-handedly revolutionized global entertainment as we know it, and I'm always up for seeing what new project he has coming up. And out of all the films that he has made in his decades-long career, I got to say that The Fabelmans might be one of the most fascinating that he has made in the past several years. And by the way, just in case, this video will contain spoilers, so you've been warned. The Fabelmans is a slight dramatization of Spielberg's own life before he became the Hollywood juggernaut that we've come to know, albeit with the names of the characters changed from their real-life counterparts. More specifically, it starts with Sammy Fabelman, aka Young Spielberg, on the day his parents brought him to see The Greatest Show on Earth in theaters, his very first movie, and how much it changed his life, making him discover how much he wants to capture images and tell stories with them. This obsession bled into the rest of his adolescence while his family moved from Ohio to Arizona to California as the father kept getting better jobs. However, through all the footage that he kept making, Sammy ends up finding out that his mother not only was unhappy with the marriage, but was secretly in love with the father's best friend. It's a dynamic that causes heavy disruption and unease within the family, until the day the parents announced to Sammy and his sisters that, well, it just wasn't working and that they're getting a divorce. From there on, Sammy goes through some turbulent times both because of this event and having to survive in a very anti-Semitic school and environment when he gets to California, including bullies, seeing that he himself is Jewish. But he does have one coping mechanism. Through the film, he keeps on making more and more short movies with his camera, and each time it shows that not only he is a very talented director, but that he's pouring his turbulent emotions and feelings into his art, and he starts to discover how much what he's shooting affects the minds of those he worked with on set, seeing that movies are a much more powerful tool than what he originally expected. Now, while I was already aware of the kind of upbringing Spielberg had, and while I knew that events like watching The Greatest Show on Earth and his parents divorcing left a powerful impact on him and did actually happen, I can't testify entirely on what else was actual historical fact and what was spiced up for drama here. That's for Spielberg himself to know. With that said, there are a couple of moments here and there that did feel a little, well, Hollywood-like, let's say. It's nothing too overt, but I'd be surprised if, for example, certain characters really did react this powerfully to his short films even back in the day, and it does kinda stop The Fabelmans from reaching a higher level than it could have reached. It's a Spielbergian trope, but one that doesn't exactly hold that much water nowadays for modern audiences that are a little more fine-tuned to complex morals and messages rather than fully hopeful ones. But frankly, the interesting thing about this film is that, somehow, you end up really not caring. You still end up feeling for Sammy, tinted lens or not, and it somehow manages to hit not only deep inner notes, but notes you kinda ended up forgetting you had to begin with if you've been feeling in a bit of a rut. Maybe it's because we know what the epilogue of this story is, that Sammy ends up being a massive successful filmmaker, but as much as we all know Spielberg sure loves his movies, this one manages to stand out because it's him explaining why he loves them so much, or at least to what degree. They helped him feel normal because he knew he could put out there all his raw emotions, and he learned to be brave enough to do something like that. It's no wonder, in fact, that Spielberg has gone on record saying that it's one of the most personal and shocking film experiences that he has made thus far. And frankly, maybe that's what this film manages to do for us. We're all fine-tuned by now to the fame and glamour of filmmaking, but Spielberg tries to remind us that that's not the point. The success is only a byproduct, a side effect almost. He's exposing himself as much as possible here, and perhaps it could be to show not only what he went through, embellished or not, but to also make us understand that filmmaking has to have a deeper point. It's supposed to be a vessel for you to pour your most intimate thoughts into, and the more honest you're being, the more your audiences will respond. Now, as mentioned earlier, I do still think there are some slight faults with the film that maybe prevent it from reaching a much higher level than it currently is. Namely, I'm also wondering if perhaps the message of following your passion might be a bit, well, too one-sided. We get it that Sammy was not only passionate but obsessed with movies, but this is still a pretty big life decision to take, and I wonder if it could leave the message of follow your passion and that's it, while not balancing it out with the idea that maybe it is a risky idea. Sure, Spielberg hit the jackpot because he was very talented and extremely hardworking, although I'm pretty sure he wasn't this good in his first shorts, but what happens if you don't get that talent card? I think it could have been much more interesting if there was perhaps some more doubts about this profession he wanted to take. And in fact, I'm wondering if this message could have been delivered better if the whole film was told by the perspective of the parents. If you think about it, a story about a couple who isn't sure if they're meant for each other could be a really fascinating story as well. Exploring their own feelings on the matter, trying to understand if their life choices were the right ones and what it means living with the consequences of them, and then wondering how and if those decisions might either reflect or repeat in one of their children, who is showing a particular obsession with an art form that's risky to explore as a career. How does a parent know if it really is the right decision for them in the long run? Remove the audience's background knowledge of the end result and really make them question these things. But then again, I'm not gonna blame neither the film nor Spielberg for having taken the road that it took. It is, after all, an account of his own experiences and how he perceived them, which again, as mentioned before, is what made the story so raw and captivating despite there being most likely some embellishments. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was hard enough as it is to portray his own parents in this light while not making them seem like villains. It's a very delicate balance and one that would have affected Spielberg very deeply if he got it wrong, and frankly, I still think he delivered. Hell, there are some moments that I think are undeniably fascinating, even in a sort of meta sense. For example, I knew the story of how he played with toy trains after seeing The Greatest Show on Earth until he could recreate it, but it's something entirely different to actually see it happening this way. It's one thing to picture it in your own head when Spielberg described it in interviews, and it's another to literally see a portrayal of what was going on in his brain when the events actually happened, and how deep the obsession was for him. In a weird way, it's really close to looking into a portal of the past and Spielberg's own mind despite there being no real footage of himself. If Spielberg can't portray how impactful it was for him, no one can. And all of this is made even more fascinating with the knowledge that the houses we see in the film are recreations of the real houses Spielberg used to live in. So this is as much of a deep dive as you're gonna get in witnessing the event that brought us one of the greatest filmmakers in cinematic history. And there were plenty of other great scenes as well, such as when Sammy meets his uncle Boris, who leaves a huge impact on him, or when he met John Ford in his office, which apparently is almost exactly how that interview went, played shockingly well by none other than David freaking Lynch. On that note, in fact, I have to point out that all the actors did an absolutely great job at this. From Gabriel LaBelle to Paul Dano to even Seth Rogen, and frankly a stellar and Oscar-worthy performance by Michelle Williams. So yeah, those are my thoughts on The Fabelmans. Not necessarily a masterpiece, but still a really good film and might end up being the most deep and impactful one that Spielberg has done in the past several years. So go give it a watch, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Join my Patreon if you want to support what I do here. And I'll see you at the next Quickie review. Take care all, bye!